Hey, Detoxers. Welcome to a special episode of the Disinfo Detox. Today we're talking about something interesting. Is this the end of social media? I know that may seem like a crazy question, but about 10 years ago, I was at a conference. I was on a panel and they asked me about where would social media go from here. I said, I don't know. I think it's going to fragment into a bunch of different platforms, and eventually people are going to find it difficult to defend social media use. And I compared it to party phone, which only one person in the audience knew what I was talking about. But that's okay. Today I have someone to talk about this who's a specialist in this area, someone I always depend on to talk about digital marketing, digital communication. Please welcome Matt Bailey, the founder and lead instructor for SiteLogic, to the Disinfo Detox.
Thank you, Nolan. It is always great to talk with you. Look forward to the conversation.
Of course, and you had this post about a month ago on LinkedIn that really caught my eye. It started out saying, "You're not imagining it. People are posting less." And I had, started to see this phenomenon kind of anecdotally, but I had never seen anybody else articulate it quite the way you did. So, can you talk a little bit about what you said in that post about how you noticed people are posting less, and what are some of the reasons you think are behind it?
Absolutely. Well, this started. My social media of choice is LinkedIn. That is where, as a B2B, marketing instructor and selling to that area, LinkedIn has always been my bread and butter. And ever since AI was introduced, it got introduced into the LinkedIn feed. And if anyone's been on LinkedIn, you get, let AI help you with your post. Let AI help you with your response. Let AI write your, it's all over the place on the platform. And within a couple of months, we started seeing massive changes in what we would call the engagement, the amount of people that would comment, the amount of people that would share. That started to just decline over the next 6 months. Then also what we saw was an increase in the amount of AI generated comments. And so that started going. But over time, the LinkedIn engagement has just fallen off. And when I start seeing people that I follow that have 200, 300,000 followers on LinkedIn, over the past 6 months, one by one, they've all started saying, you know what? It's not worth it anymore. That I'm just not getting the reach. It's full of AI comments. It just gets parted out. I'm tired of feeding the LinkedIn AI. I'm tired of this because it's not rewarding anymore. And we're seeing it over and over and over. And what's taking over in the feed is slop. It's just slop, AI generated slop, low quality how to articles, and they're getting like this artificial boost from somewhere. And so, those of us that have been on LinkedIn for 20 years or more, it's just watching this solid decline. But it's not just there. We're seeing it in Instagram. We're seeing where, the promise of Instagram was to see what your friends were doing, was to see what your family. Same with Facebook. All of these social media platforms were to follow people you knew. And now when you go to your feed, what do you see? It's not people you know. It's not the people who want to follow you who are seeing your content. You're seeing someone else's content that's being pushed on you by the algorithm. And what I see, Nolan, is just people are just going through the motions now. There's a burnout.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit because one of the things I was wondering, and I don't have an answer for this, so I really am wondering it. It's one of those questions you ask where you think you know the answer. I'm wondering about, how much of this is changes in the platform versus how changes in the user. Because,
Mhm.
I was someone who, was alive when social media first came out, and I used it just as you described it. It was to connect with friends, share pictures, plan parties, blah blah blah. That is not the way these platforms are being used
Oh
today. Was
no.
that a conscious change by the platforms themselves, or was it a response to the users? Do you have any insight on that?
It's a response to the dollar. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Is I'm not going to buy anything if I don't see ads, and I'm not going to stay on the platform if I don't see interesting things. So what started as the promise of connecting with each other, and by the way, your analysis 10 years ago of fragmentation, that's the cycle of social media. is you have one or two rise up and then it fragments. One or two rise up and it fragments. And we are going to hit a period of fragmentation over the next couple of years because the promise of Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn was connecting with people, the people I want to follow. And we got this bait and switch. And the bait and switch is because the platforms are all designed by the same people who design gambling games. The whole point of you being on a platform is to get you to stay longer because the longer you stay, the more ads you see, the more money they make. That's the cycle. And so every bit of behavioral science is put into keeping you on that platform for 1 minute more than you were yesterday, and or 50 seconds more than you were 2 hours ago. That is the whole goal of it. And so they promote things that they know will hook you in and keep you on. And it's all driven by the dollar.
Okay, so now some of these folks, may say, I don't use social media to connect with friends. I use it purely for business or branding. What's the effect on folks like that? Because we have a lot of content creators, and I think a whole generation of people who, want to be content creators. They want to talk and do the things they love from their house and make videos or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
What's been the effect on them? Is social media still a really critical part of the finances for folks like that? Has it seen a reduction?
Yeah. I mean, YouTube published the other day that they spent probably over $1 billion on content creators. And so, there can be a legitimate way to create content. And I know people that are doing it and I applaud them for it. But there is a trade off. Good friends of mine that I have helped and consulted with, but their complaint to me is, I'm no longer doing X, which is what I love and why I started the channel, is to show people how I do this. But now I'm an editor. Now I'm a screenwriter. Now I'm this, and I don't do this anymore. And so that is the price to pay for a content creator is, and also the pressure to increase the quality, to increase your output, because that's, the more views, the more money. And so all of a sudden now you're, as a creator, watching everyone else. What are they doing? How are they growing? And that's good to an extent, but here's the problem. Everything starts to flatten because you're trying to accommodate and you're trying to conform to the algorithm rather than be unique. And because you're conforming to the algorithm, now everyone starts to sound the same. Everything starts to look the same, especially in categories. And you're losing a lot of those, I would say, the voices that don't fit, the uniqueness that gets shaved off because everyone's trying to do what everyone else is in order to increase. And so it has an effect on people. And most of them, again, there's burnout on that side as well.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that kind of anecdotally as well, as someone who's in the podcasting space or the newsletter space. Anytime you can just reference, like, I don't know, vaccines or Joe Rogan, you get way more attention to your content, right? You find those buzzwords, and it's not the place where I make my only living, but if it was, I mean, how tempted would one be, right, to continue covering those topics purely because it keeps the money coming in? Where maybe you're passionate about something like knitting or something, and it doesn't draw attention. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you go where the money is. That's a thing. And I know a lot of these content creators, in working with them, they do a hefty amount of research to see what do people search for? What are they looking for? What kind of content do people want to see on YouTube? And so there's a lot of research that goes in to see what's the market size. And now if we were to create a channel, what would that do, and how do we, disrupt this subject area? And so time and time again, it's all about it's a numbers game because it's all about gaining those views. That's what builds the money. It's and so sometimes it's your sweet spot. Other times you've got to adjust, you've got to change and become someone or something that you maybe didn't originally intend, But because you've got to go through these steps, you've got to go through this process to be picked up by the algorithm by watching what everyone else does. It conforms you.
So on the marketing side of things, which I know you're intimately knowledgeable of, are are like advertisers and marketers trying to find other areas, even if they're digital, outside of social media? Is that sort of a big interest in the kind of market right now, to find something besides social media where maybe they'll get more return for advertising?
There's still a lot of emphasis on social media. In fact, I'm always amazed at how many social media jobs are open. Uh, the funny thing is it's not just social media. You also need to be able to produce video. You need to be able to edit. You need to be able to, build an entire market. So it's not just social media. It's not just posting. It's full content creation, and those jobs are out there. People are still looking for it, but those people that are in it, and advertisers that are in it, I think they're seeing you can't make this a major part of your strategy. A prime example, one of my clients got mentioned by an influencer, or content creator, we'll call it, and massive. We had to. I got a call at 1 in the morning. I had to work with a hosting company to get some extra resources because their website was getting hammered. It was slowing down. We had to get another tier of service, make sure it never. Thousands of people visited the site. Hundreds of people added the product to the shopping cart. 2 people bought. And that is the story every single time. I talk to, companies that, oh yeah, we went viral. Well, what'd that get you? A lot of visits, not a lot of sales. And so the quest that advertisers or business people have, that all I got to do is go viral. All I got to do is get the right content creator. I just got to get, no. And this is the thing, this behavior of social media has been the same for 20 years. You get the big sugar high hit, but there's no substance. There's no lasting power. Whereas other channels, when you get people organically, when they're looking for you, like through search or something like that, those are the customers that buy and stay and buy again.
Fascinating stuff. So let's return to this question, because it's obvious that hopefully it's obvious to others, but I know it's definitely obvious to you. So much of this so-called social media industry is predicated on marketing and the for-profit model. Do you see these changes as a sign of the end of social media coming, or is it here?
I see the here's the biggest problem. I could go like 20 different ways, Nolan, but here's the number one problem. It's
I know
trust.
you can. That's why I like to invite you on the show.
Yeah. It's trust. Um, when people lose trust in a platform, like right now, I mean, you've seen AI video, we just came out of a mind-boggling couple of weeks. I don't know what's real.
Mhm.
I and if I see something for the first time on Instagram, I don't trust it. Anyone can say anything and publish a video that looks and now what happens when people don't trust what they see? And so and this is why I think something like Substack is growing immensely, is because I know it's a person.
Mhm.
It's a person who's writing this article. It's not AI slop, and there are some Substacks that are AI slop, but you can tell.
Mhm.
And so I follow a couple Substacks. I know they're real people. They interact. They have good things to say. And this is where I see now the splintering of social media. I could see it going back to almost like the forum style, where I know it's people and we're talking in threaded discussions, because that's what people crave, are connections. And that's what's being taken away from us. And when those connections are untrustworthy, well, where do you go? That's where I think the number one factor that's going to destroy social media.
That's such an interesting point, and I noticed that a lot on the Substack platform. I don't think the creators quite understood what they were creating in terms of an alternative, but it's been interesting to watch it grow. They just add new features like notes and follows and subscribers and things like that. And it has become quite an interactive platform. And to your point, I think this was X that did this first, but I think others followed. with the popularity of Substack, they started to basically shadow ban or show less often Substack links because they recognized that people were going over there to feed some of that hunger that you're talking about. What do you see in terms of Substack playing a role in marketing, or do you see it as kind of the a way to escape advertising?
Yeah, I think, well, and that's the thing, all the streaming services were predicated on avoiding advertising. And now all the streaming services, you got to pay to avoid advertising again. It's this inescapable drive to monetize everything. And I love the Substack model because I will pay who I want to pay. And what I love about Substack is I get those articles when they're published. They come directly to me either through my app or my email. I'm notified. I can sit and read it. And I getting some of that long form, thoughtful content that's human. And that's what we're craving. There's only so much dopamine a brain can handle in a day. My prayer for society is people start realizing that these dopamine hits are not good, and we've got to fill our brain with something that actually provides some substance, something to think about and consider, rather than yelling at somebody to have a certain emotion or have a certain reaction. It goes back to just people are getting worn out.
Yeah, and you do such important work in this space for folks who are navigating this space and who may be hearing a lot of things you're saying and just being kind of surprised. Can you tell them a little bit about what SiteLogic is, what you do, and where they can find out more?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started building websites in the late 90s, turned it into an agency where we did a lot of search marketing, paid advertising. Analytics is really where I kind of made my name in understanding how to apply analytics to websites, to sales and improvements. And so SiteLogic originally was a marketing agency. But about 10 years ago, I realized I was doing more training and teaching. And so I pivoted the agency to we're all education. We have online courses. We do in-house workshops, training marketing companies. And you'll love this. I mean, Nolan, most of our training is digital and media literacy, teaching marketers to read through the lines of the headlines. Especially right now with AI, it's never been more important to understand how to read these articles and how to interpret them and what's the focus and what are they trying to make you do, and teaching marketers basic media literacy and then making good decisions as a result of that. So that's what I do at SiteLogic.
Can you tell them where the website is for that? And also tell them about your podcast, because I've been on it. It's a great podcast.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, SiteLogic is SITELOGIC, sitelogic.com. And there you can find out a little bit more about me and also the online courses that we have. Also, Endless Coffee Cup. I am on a bit of hiatus right now, just because of life. But yeah, it's just conversations like this, mostly about marketing, but we get into a lot of cultural things as well, because I don't think I've ever seen it in my entire life where marketing drives the conversation, the daily conversations of what's happening and what we're seeing with AI, how that's affecting people. And so we get into just areas of entrepreneurship, professional development, but it's mostly marketing.
It's a great podcast, and you're a great guest. Thank you so much for coming on the Disinfo Detox, Matt.
Thank you, Nolan. Appreciate the invitation.
All right. Thank you, Detoxers. We'll see you next time.